I'm afraid I can't accommodate everyone better. This projector doesn't seem to be working with this computer, so we'll have to make do with this monitor if that's all right with everyone. What I suppose I'd like to do today is just show a little bit of the design that we've come up with for our first iteration of the E-thology system. Some of you had the opportunity to see a very early version of this that I went over to Stone Center and demonstrated in September, I think, of last year. It's grown quite a bit since then, and it's actually live. We're using the live website. And let me just show you a few of the basic features and some of the reasons we made some of the design decisions that we did in developing our prototype. This is what you see when you log in. This is the title page. Again, this is really only intended to be a placeholder. I'm sure the art department or better artists than me anyway will come up with something better later, but this is what we have now. The screen is designed in such a way that since Gina's using iPads in her class to pilot this system, and since it will also be used on regular desktop and laptop computers, in designing the layout of this, we wanted something that would work well with all these various types of devices. And of course on a tablet or on a laptop, it becomes very important to economize on screen space. And so we've designed this system in such a way that the features that it offers are only occupy space on the screen when you need them. And thus this, what I call the accordion design here on the left. If you click on these various areas which represent a table of contents or a directory of authors, clicking on each of these areas will unfold the content that you want. And then by clicking on a different area, it folds it back up and unfolds the other content that you want. And as a result, it really economizes on screen space. It's quite easy to work on a tablet too, because as you might imagine, holding this in your hand, you can navigate this very easily with your thumb. And by clicking on one of the works, let me go ahead and choose one of these. Okay, again, we've got it loading pretty quickly. You choose a work here on the left, and if it's a work of only one part, like a short work or a poem or something, it opens up directly on the right and allows you to use it through this, this reader screen. Now, we tried in the design of this to replicate traditional typography as much as possible, to make it look as much like an e-book as possible, even though it's running in a website. And a couple interesting things we did here. Some of the features it offers, of course, you can zoom in to full screen and read it that way if you wish, or zoom back to the windowed mode so you can view it alongside the menu. But of course, as all of you know, because you've been contributing so much of the content that has gone into this, in addition to the primary text, we also have supplemental content, which we've added to the system in the form of marginalia of various kinds. Notes to help explain unfamiliar terms, to explain events that might have influenced the text in some way, to provide extra context for modern readers that they might not be familiar with. And in linking in this information to the text, this was another design challenge that we had, and this is something that we thought a lot about, because you want to strike a very careful balance here. You want to provide that information so that the reader can place the works in context, but you don't want to provide it in such a way that it intrudes upon the reader's attention. You don't want that to actually take their attention away from the text. You want it to provide the information that they need and then guide them back to the text with that information as effortlessly as possible. And so what we did in providing this is, if you'll notice here in the right-hand margin, these icons which appear. And again, that's a way of, those are cues, those are signals to the reader that extra information is available for some of the text on that line. And if they then want to, for example, if they don't know what the word prodigality means, well, as they read this text and they come upon that word and they say, I wonder what that means. Wait a minute, there's a dictionary icon over here. Maybe that will tell me. And by clicking on it, it highlights the word and it gives a definition. And then when they're done looking at that, they can click the icon again and it goes away. So again, and we chose to do it this way as opposed to highlighting the text or underlining it to indicate that something is linked to it, as you would see on a traditional web page. And you can enable that option if you like by clicking this option here, and that reveals everything. And then you can just click on this and see what's connected to it. But I don't know about anyone else, but for me, I would find that very distracting as a reader, because as the eye encounters these various cues, as you read, you're forcing a decision upon the reader. Do I want to look at that or not? Whereas if you provide it in icons like this, you're allowing them to make the decision as to whether or not they want to look at it. If they choose to, it's very easy to access it. If they don't, it's very easy to ignore it. And of course, if you want to get rid of them altogether, one or two more clicks of this and it all goes away, and it leaves them just with the text. Okay. And of course, they can increase or decrease the font size as desired if they have trouble looking at it or if they want to fit more text on the screen. And they can switch to another work.
Do that again.
Oh yes, increase or decrease. You see this plus and minus here? If I click on that, plus, the text gets bigger. There's something like 4 or 5 different sizes. And notice that the icons get bigger also to correspond. So they can get pretty big. Or, if you wish, you can shrink it back down again by touching minus. And again, these are all like touchscreen buttons, so they're very easy to use on a touchscreen also, in addition to a mouse. And of course, if you want to browse the available works by author, we can drill down a bit. We can look at Frederick Douglass. We can look at his autobiography. And notice that the autobiography is divided up into various sections corresponding to the original chapters.